Hello and welcome. MsStoryMystery here, bringing you the strange and unexplained. Tonight, we're diving into 5 eerie encounters that will make you question what's lurking in the shadows. From mysterious lights at 3:30 a.m. to something scratching from beneath the bed, these stories blur the line between reality and the unknown. So, light a candle, or maybe leave the lights on, and let's explore the mysteries together. The house I grew up in was anything but ordinary. It sat right at the edge of a dense forest, and just beyond our backyard was this old, forgotten graveyard. Overgrown with tangled weeds and twisted trees, it looked like something straight out of a creepy ghost story. The headstones were crooked and crumbling, their inscriptions worn away by time. Even in the middle of summer, the air back there was always cold, like the graveyard carried its own chill. Sometimes we'd catch shadows moving between the headstones, or hear faint whispers when everything else was still. None of us ever really talked about it, but we all felt it. It wasn't just a graveyard, it was something else. The house itself wasn't exactly a safe haven either. From the moment we moved in, strange things started happening. Lights would flicker for no reason, doors opened and slammed on their own, and things we knew we'd left in one spot would show up somewhere completely different. My parents shrugged it off at first. Old house problems, they said. But some things just couldn't be explained away. One night I passed out on the couch while my parents went to bed. Sometime in the middle of the night, they woke up to the sound of small footsteps slowly approaching their room. They figured it was me, coming to climb into bed like I sometimes did. But then, the footsteps stopped. They waited, expecting me to climb up, but instead, they felt it. Something pressing down on the foot of the bed. Slow, deliberate, wrong. My dad flipped on the light, but there was nothing there. Panicked, they bolted down the hall to the living room and found me still sound asleep on the couch, right where they left me. This is easily one of the scariest things that's ever happened to me. It might not sound as wild as some stories, but for me, it was unforgettable and absolutely terrifying. It happened back in 2013 when I was 19. My room was in the basement of my dad's house. It was late at night, and I was lying in bed, wide awake thanks to my usual insomnia. My mind was racing, chasing random thoughts, when I heard it. A scratching sound. It wasn't loud, but it was deliberate. Sharp and clear in the stillness of the basement. At first I thought I imagined it, but then it came again. And again. It wasn't random. The noise was coming from underneath my bed. The scratching grew more frantic, more desperate. Then I felt it, scratching and pounding through the mattress beneath me. It was like something was trapped down there, clawing and pounding, trying to break free. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I just lay there, frozen in place, paralyzed by fear. Finally, something snapped in me. Adrenaline kicked in, and I bolted out of bed, flipping on the light. I dropped to my knees, stared under the bed, and shouted, "What do you want from me?" Nothing. There was nothing there. Months later, a friend of mine moved in and rented a room on the top floor of the house. After only a few nights, she told me about something that had happened to her. Something she couldn't explain. She described the exact same thing. The scratching, the pounding, everything. We had never talked about it before. Whatever it was, it hadn't stayed in the basement. I moved into my house 8 years ago. My son and I experienced plenty of strange occurrences, but nothing prepared me for this. Not long after my son moved out, I started waking up every night at exactly 3:30 a.m. Blinding, strobing lights flooded my bedroom. They came from outside, flashing so intensely that the entire room glowed. The first few times, I was terrified. Something about the lights felt off. They didn't seem like car lights or anything explainable. My usual curiosity turned to dread. I'd hide under the covers, too scared to move. Eventually, I gathered the courage to look. I crept to the window, but as soon as I peeked outside, the lights stopped. It became a pattern. If I stayed in bed, the lights continued. If I got up to investigate, they'd vanish instantly. To this day, I don't know what caused them or why they came at exactly 3:30 a.m. We lived on a secluded stretch of highway surrounded by protected forest land, far from any neighbors. The woods were eerie, dense, and ancient. One night after dinner, my brothers and I went outside to feed our dog near the tree line, a spot that always felt wrong. As we approached, something felt off. The air felt electric, like a storm was brewing. Our dog was barking frantically, straining at his leash as though trying to attack something in the woods. Then we heard it. Branches snapping. We turned toward the noise and saw it. A massive, black, stick-like figure, taller than the trees, moved stiffly through the forest. Its mechanical, unnatural movements were haunting. At first, it didn't seem to notice us. But then, slowly, it turned toward us. We ran. My brother dropped the dog's food bowl, and we sprinted back inside, legs trembling like jelly. Years later, I learned about the Native American legends of stick people, ominous spirits that roam the forests. Knowing the history of that land, I believe we saw one. During my high school years, I wasn't super into faith or anything like that. I loved watching scary movies for fun and was fascinated by the paranormal, though I'd never had any first-hand experiences, at least not back then. Because of my culture and background, I grew up hearing a lot of creepy stories from family and friends. Many of them were tied to spiritual beliefs and old traditions. One common rule I always heard was, never answer if you hear your name being called and you know no one's around. If it's a spirit, responding gives it permission to latch on to you. I remember hearing stories from family friends who were shamans. They'd hear their names being called when they were home alone, and even though they knew no one was there, they'd check the house just in case. Every time they'd find the house completely empty. Now, I didn't think much of it at the time. I was just your average teenager. The closest thing I ever experienced was sleep paralysis during my sophomore year of high school. At first, it freaked me out, but after a while, I got used to it. I'd wake up stuck, unable to move, and think, ugh, I'm too tired for this, and go right back to sleep. But one night during my junior year, something happened that I still can't explain. It wasn't sleep paralysis. It was something much worse. It was a normal Saturday night. I went to bed, plugged in my old Verizon flip phone, and laid it on the pillow next to me like I always did. The front screen stayed lit while it charged, casting a soft glow on the ceiling. At some point, I woke up, half asleep, dazed, but I felt like someone was standing just outside my bedroom door in the hallway. I didn't hear anything, but I knew someone was there. The same way you know someone's walked into a room without seeing them. Thinking it was my younger sister, I mumbled, "Anna, what do you want?" No response. I shrugged it off and went back to sleep, too tired to care. But not for long. I woke up again. Not groggy this time, but fully awake. I turned my head slightly to check the time on my phone. It was just before 3 a.m. I sighed, ready to fall back asleep. But then I saw it. A massive shadow moved across the ceiling where the light from my phone was hitting. It shifted from left to right as if someone or something had passed directly in front of the light. I blinked, trying to process what I just saw. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe I'm just tired. I decided to keep my eyes open just to be sure. 2 seconds later, the shadow moved again. This time from right to left. That's when I really woke up. My eyes widened and my heart pounded in my chest. I was frozen with fear, but didn't dare move. Then the entire atmosphere in the room changed. It's hard to explain, but the air felt thick, almost like the gravity had shifted. The room felt oppressive, heavy, wrong. Before I could react, I felt something moving near my bed. The pressure hit the foot of the mattress like a massive weight climbing on. Each time it moved, I felt the bed shift beneath me, the mattress sinking, the frame creaking. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I just laid there, trapped, silently praying for it to stop. Finally, after what felt like forever, the pressure lifted. I could move again. I bolted out of bed and ran straight to my sister's room. I climbed into her bed without a word, waking her up in the process. "What's wrong?" she asked groggily. I was scared," I whispered. That's all I could say. For a month after that, I couldn't sleep alone. I stayed in my sister's room every single night, terrified of what might happen if I went back to mine. To this day, I don't know what I experienced that night, but I pray I never feel it again. thank you for joining me on this journey into the strange and unexplained. If you enjoyed these stories, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new mystery. Have a paranormal experience of your own? Drop your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And if you know someone who loves a good scare, share this video with them. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and remember, the next mystery might be closer than you think.